Welcome to Spurs Focus, your go-to spot for daily Tottenham news, transfers, and match updates. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button now. Let's dive into today's top story. Thomas Frank's honeymoon period at Tottenham is already being tested not by opponents, but by the treatment table. With stars like James Maddison, Dejan Kulusevski, Radu Dragusin, and even new arrival Kota Takai sidelined, the Dane is quickly learning that managing Spurs is as much about patience and recovery as it is about tactics on the pitch. Thomas Frank is already finding out just how difficult it is to keep Tottenham Hotspur players out of the treatment room with a string of key players out. The Dane has only been at Spurs for a few months yet, is waiting for a number of his star names to become available. He lost James Maddison to an anterior cruciate ligament injury in the final pre-season match of the summer against Newcastle in South Korea, which means the midfielder will miss most of the campaign ahead. Frank was already waiting for his other playmaker to come back from injury. Dejan Kulusevski suffered an injury to his knee in the match against Crystal Palace last season, which required surgery. Football.London reported on Tuesday that the Swede is set to return towards the end of 2025, and potentially not until December, barring a quicker than expected recovery. The Spurs head coach is also awaiting the return of centre-backs Radu Dragusin and Kota Takai from injury. The Romanian suffered an ACL injury back in January during the victory against Elfsborg in the Europa League, while newcomer Takai only arrived this summer before suffering from a plantar fascia foot problem. Football.London asked Frank about both Dragusin's return and Yves Bissouma's recent knee injury on Friday. I think with Bissouma, one thing for sure, he's out for the next game, and then the specific timeline I'm a little bit in doubt of because I don't think it'll be that long, said the Dane. Dragusin is on the way back and he's been running for a while. I think he should join the team in a week's time. 10 days time, I think that's the thing. So that's positive, but of course it is an ACL. I'm always a little bit more, not worried, but just aware that it takes time. When you've been out of football for 9 months, you need to get in. It's not enough to have a 6-week pre-season. You need to take a little bit more time, but it's positive and some surprise and come back quicker, of course. When it comes to Takai, Football.London reported last week that he was back outside working with the ball, and Frank later confirmed he could be back in training soon. Kota, the young central defender we bought this summer, is running now and training with the team next week, the Tottenham head coach said on Friday. There is also Dominic Solanke, who continues to have issues with an ankle problem that has bothered him for most of the summer. He's got a minor issue with his ankle, which has been grumbling a bit, also in pre-season. It is just too much for this game. Now we have the international break, so hopefully he can be back after that, said Frank on Saturday at Football.London, then reported on Monday that Spurs are still hoping Solanke's problem will be sorted over the next couple of weeks, and the player has had an injection in his ankle to try to settle it down. The deadline day signing of Randall Kolo Muani suggests they are planning just in case it turns out to be anything worse. Frank got a few new faces in the past week in the transfer window, but he will be hoping that some of his old ones come back sooner rather than later. Deadline day drama didn't disappoint in North London. Tottenham were right in the thick of it, sealing a major attacking boost, waving goodbye to familiar faces, and leaving just enough uncertainty to keep fans on edge. But while the Premier League window slammed shut, the story for Spurs might not be over just yet. Tottenham were active on the final day of the transfer window after getting a few deals over the line. Spurs' main bit of business saw them strengthen their attack with Randall Kolo Muani joining on a season-long loan deal from PSG. The North London club had tried to sign the French international back in January, but ultimately lost out to Juventus at the time. Outgoings also took place on deadline day as Brian Gill bid farewell after 4 years in N17 as he linked up with Girona on a permanent basis. Manus Solomon also headed for Spain, joining Villarreal on a season-long loan deal after a late switch to Crystal Palace fell through. Despite the Premier League transfer window closing for business on Monday evening, we could still see a couple of transfer deals involving Tottenham take place. This is because the transfer window is still open in a number of different countries. For example, according to FIFA, the Dutch transfer window does not close until Tuesday, September 2nd. Belgium is Monday, September 8th. Clubs in Greece, Turkey and Switzerland have until Friday, September 12th. and the Saudi Pro League is Tuesday, September 23rd, Yves Bissouma could potentially still depart Tottenham Hotspur Stadium over the coming days. Galatasaray were last week in talks with Tottenham over a deal for Bissouma, but a move did not come to fruition before the 7 p.m. Premier League deadline on Monday. There is still time for Bissouma to head to Turkey, with the window closing there on Friday, September 12th. Tottenham really could do with moving the midfielder on, as he is now in the final year of his contract, in £17. Dane Scarlett still remains a Tottenham player, despite the striker looking a certainty to depart on loan. The academy graduate was not part of Tottenham's squad for their pre-season tour of Asia, so he could explore a loan move elsewhere. Alfie Devine was in a similar boat last season, when he looked on course to remain at Tottenham beyond the closure of the transfer window, until the club struck a loan agreement with Belgian side Westerlo in early September. Belgian clubs have until Monday, September 8th, to complete any remaining deals if any side is keen on signing Scarlett. Matthew Craig is another Tottenham youngster who has yet to secure a move for the new season. After his loan success at Doncaster Rovers in the 2023/24 campaign, last season did not go as planned for the 22-year-old after falling out of favour at Barnsley and then seeing his time at Mansfield Town disrupted by injury. Craig is so far down the midfield pecking order at Tottenham that he requires a move away for the sake of his career. The 18-year-old Croatian joined Spurs this summer after a long-anticipated transfer from Hajduk Split. But with Romero and Van de Ven dominating at centre-back, he's decided regular football in the Bundesliga is the best path for his development. Luka Vuskovic has admitted that he found it difficult to play at the level of Tottenham players like Christian Romero and Mickey van de Ven, so decided to head out on loan to Hamburg in a bid to improve. The 18-year-old centre-back arrived at Spurs this summer from Hajduk Split and grabbed a goal and assist in his first pre-season friendly against Reading under new head coach Thomas Frank. As pre-season wore on, the new Tottenham boss decided that the teenage Croatian would benefit from a loan move if he wanted it. Vuskovic has admitted, after making the move to Hamburg, where his brother Mario has played, that he had to make the move to the Bundesliga as he did not feel ready for Tottenham's level just yet. Yes, they offered me an option to stay, to play in case of injury or cup matches, but I wanted continuous minutes, the defender said in an interview with Germanijack. They have Romero and Van de Ven playing there, two of the best centre-backs in the world at the moment. I believe in myself, but it's really difficult to play next to them. I've faced them and I realise that I still have to work harder. A lot of work and a little luck, so I'll be back. He explained why he made the move to Tottenham this summer, after agreeing the transfer 2 years ago, despite competition for his signature from Manchester City. I didn't want to be just a number. At Tottenham, you told me what they expected and offered in terms of sport, and that prevailed. The plan they put before me, said the centre-back. On his move to Hamburg, Vuskovic is looking forward to his third loan in as many years after spells at Radomiak in Poland and Westerlo in Belgium. I was hoping for such an outcome. I really wanted HSV, a big club, a beautiful city with an army of fans, he said. My brother was there, and that's why it was even more important to me. I was at the qualifiers with Ulm, I felt the atmosphere, and especially when they chanted for my brother, they brought me here for life. Nothing is guaranteed. I don't have a guaranteed spot. I'll play if I'm good in training, if the coach thinks I am. If I'm not, I won't play. The 26-year-old forward joins Thomas Frank's side on a season-long deal after a move to Juventus collapsed, with Spurs needing more firepower following Son's exit and Solanke's injury concerns. Kolo Muani adds depth and versatility to the attack. Tottenham have confirmed the loan signing of Randall Kolo Muani from Paris Saint-Germain. The French international joins Thomas Frank's side on a season-long deal after a permanent move to Juventus never came to fruition. Kolo Muani was a player of interest to Tottenham in January, but it was the Serie A side who instead won the race for his signature on loan. A permanent switch this summer collapsed, however, and that allowed Tottenham to nip in and wrap up a deal for the 26-year-old. The agreement between Tottenham and Paris Saint-Germain does not contain an option or obligation to buy the attacker next summer. Providing he is registered in Spurs' Champions League squad, Kolo Muani will be able to face his parent club in Europe's premier competition when they meet in the league phase on Wednesday, November 26th. The addition of the Bondi-born ace boosts Frank's team for the 2025/26 campaign and gives him more options in the final third. Kolo Muani is a striker by trade, but he can also play on either wing. That in turn will help Spurs out as they have yet to replace Son Heung-min, following his transfer to LAFC last month. Dominic Solanke missed last Saturday's defeat to Bournemouth with an ankle injury, and Kolo Muani will now give Frank another option up front, along with Richarlison and Mathys Tel. The new signing's first appearance in a Tottenham shirt could come directly after the international break, when they travel to West Ham on Saturday, September 13th. Fellow new signing Xavi Simons may also be in line for his debut that evening at the London Stadium after last week completing his £51.8 million move from RB Leipzig. Dominic Solanke has sent a message on social media after being left out of Tottenham's matchday squad to face his former club Bournemouth, with plenty of injury speculation. Following that, the 27-year-old has been carefully managed during the first few games of the 2025/26 season, after missing the majority of pre-season with an injury. The form of Richarlison has helped his absence become less noticeable, but Spurs certainly could have done with their club record signing on Saturday afternoon. In the following 48 hours, a number of injury verdicts have been shared, with some suggesting that Solanke may require surgery. It has been claimed elsewhere, however, that he has had an injection to settle down the issue, but the expectation is he will not be out for a lengthy period. Despite that, the Lilywhites have added a new versatile forward to their ranks, with Randall Kolo Muani joining on a season-long loan from Paris Saint-Germain. A second signing in attack was considered by Spurs, but another significant deadline day deal hasn't been agreed. Exits have been sanctioned, however, with it looking as though Mana Solomon will join Crystal Palace, while Bryan Gil is heading back to Girona. While transfer news has been the focus today, Solanke has delivered a subtle update via Instagram on the injury that has been plaguing him for a month. The photo shows Solanke in the Hotspur Way gym, leaning on a bar that has been placed on a squat rack. It is likely he is doing an overhead shoulder press or squats, which suggests, as he can weight bear, the injury is not too serious. Kolo Muani, who is predominantly a centre forward, being signed does however suggest there are concerns over his fitness. With that being said, Richarlison has also been plagued by muscle issues, which is likely another reason for the loan deal being sanctioned. The Frenchman, 26, can also provide adequate cover off the left, with Champions League experience and depth in attack somewhat of a necessity for Frank Kolo. Muani looks set to rejoin Juventus after a successful 6-month loan spell earlier this year, in which he scored 10 goals scored across 22 appearances. He has played 23 games in the Champions League and has found the back of the net 73 times at senior level. Deadline day is here, and Tottenham Hotspur are set for a frantic finish. Spurs have already made big moves this summer with the arrivals of Xavi Simons, Mohamed Kudus, Joao Palhinha and more, but the squad is far from complete. Thomas Frank still wants a winger and a centre-back before 7 p.m, with Ademola Lookman strongly linked and Sevilla ruled out. Outgoings could be just as busy too, with Yves Bissouma, Bryan Gil, Dane Scarlett and Mana Solomon all facing uncertain futures. Will Spurs pull off a late blockbuster signing, or lose key names before the window slams shut? Transfer deadline day is finally here. It has been a very interesting summer window for Tottenham Hotspur, with plenty of frustration and also a couple of wins in the transfer market. Heading into the final day of the window, Spurs have so far turned Kevin Danso and Mathys Tel's loan deals into permanent moves. Luka Vuskovic finally made the switch from Hajduk Split. Joao Palhinha joined on loan from Bayern Munich, and Kota Takai, Mohamed Kudus and Xavi Simons secured permanent moves to NE17. Johan Langer still has plenty of work to do on deadline day, with the window closing for business until January at 7 p.m. this evening. As important as incomings are to bolster Thomas Frank's numbers, outgoings are also needed as part of a squad refresh for the 2025/26 season. So what deals could Tottenham look to complete in the last few hours of transfer deadline day? Football.London takes a look below. Tottenham have yet to bring in a new winger, to take Son Heung-min's place in the squad, and that needs to happen on deadline day. Manchester City ace Savinho was heavily linked with a move to Spurs, but it would appear that he will be remaining at the Etihad Stadium. The Manchester Evening News reported on Thursday that City have ruled out selling the Brazilian. Ademola Lookman of Atalanta has been mentioned in regards to a late switch to Tottenham as he looks to depart the Italian side before this evening's cut-off point. Bayern Munich are also keen on the 27-year-old with a possible loan deal mooted, and Spurs will have to get one over their German counterparts if they are to secure the signing of the former Premier League winger. Tottenham also require a new centre-back before 7 p.m. Although a new winger features higher up on the priority list right now, it is still a position Spurs have to try and strengthen. However, Frank wants cover at centre-back due to the amount of games Christian Romero and Mickey van de Ven missed last season, with Radu Dragusin still in the treatment room prior to his return to training very soon. The loan departure of Vuskovic to Hamburg has reduced Tottenham's options even further in the position. Dane Scarlett will be hoping to get his loan move away from the club in the final few hours of the transfer window. The striker was left out of Tottenham's pre-season tour squad to explore a loan deal, but a move hasn't quite happened for him yet. He needs to be playing every week, and the hope will be that the academy graduate can secure a switch elsewhere before time runs out. Bryan Gill clearly does not have a future. At Tottenham, having missed out on a squad number for the new season. The Spaniard is currently working his way back to fitness from a knee injury, and that could potentially impact a possible move, given it's not clear yet when he will be fit to return to the pitch. Tottenham really cannot afford for that to be the case due to his contract status. Yves Bissouma will feature in the headlines on deadline day. The Mali international has dropped down the Tottenham midfield pecking order this summer following the arrival of Palhinha, and it could result in a late exit. Like Gill, Bissouma's current contract expires next summer, and the club really need to part with him this window to ensure his value does not drop too much. Tottenham were last week in discussions with Galatasaray over a loan deal, but the midfielder remains a Spurs player for now. Manus Solomon was in Frank's Tottenham squad for the first time last weekend after a frustrating summer through injury. The winger gave the head coach an extra attacking option, but he remained on the bench despite Spurs needing a goal against Bournemouth. The 26-year-old is going to find regular minutes hard to come by at Tottenham, and that could pave the way for a late exit on Monday. Solomon will only drop a place in the pecking order if a new winger comes in.